I still remember the day everything changed. My daughter's wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of our lives. But then, right in the middle of it, my wife whispered, "Don't sign anything." And just like that I froze. My name is Thomas Callahan, I'm 62 years old, and I've spent the last 40 years building a life for my family. But nothing in my life could have prepared me for what was about to unfold. That day, I thought everything was perfect. My daughter, Emily, was radiant, walking down the aisle, and I stood there, proud as can be, watching her marry the man she loved. For the first time in years, everything felt right. I was surrounded by family, friends, and joy. My wife, Carol, sat beside me, smiling as she wiped away a tear of happiness. It was supposed to be a celebration, but something in the air had changed. I didn't know it then, but that whisper would be the first sign of a storm that was coming for all of us. I could feel the tension building, like a cloud hanging over the ceremony. Emily and her husband, Brian, exchanged their vows, but there was something off about the way Carol looked at me. Her smile wasn't the same. I chalked it up to nerves. After all, it was a big day for our daughter, and emotions run high in moments like this. But as the night went on, Carol's behavior became more and more unsettling. She kept glancing at me, her lips pressed tight together, as if she had something to say, but couldn't bring herself to say it. Then, just as we were about to sign the official documents, I felt her breath on my ear. "Don't sign anything," she whispered. It was the way she said it, with such quiet urgency, that made my heart skip a beat. I froze. In that moment, I didn't know what to do. My mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle of why she'd said that. Was there something I didn't know? Was there something wrong with the marriage? Or was there something deeper, something hidden from me all these years? I looked over at Emily and Brian, their excitement palpable as they kissed, but something inside me felt like it was crumbling. The room, once filled with laughter and music, now felt cold and distant. Carol's eyes met mine, and in that moment, I knew something was terribly wrong. I didn't say anything. I just stood there, my hand shaking as I held the pen, staring at the paper in front of me. I had no idea what was about to happen, but I knew my world was about to be turned upside down. The silence that followed her whisper felt like it stretched on forever. I could hear the laughter and clinking glasses from the reception outside the room, but inside, it was as if time had stopped. I glanced down at the paper in front of me, my hand still hovering over the pen. Carol's words echoed in my mind. "Don't sign anything." What was she talking about? I had no idea. This was supposed to be a moment of celebration, not one of uncertainty. My heart raced, my thoughts spinning in 1,000 different directions. I looked up at her, hoping for some explanation, but her face was unreadable. Her eyes, though, they spoke volumes. There was something she wasn't telling me, something that, until that moment, had stayed hidden. But why now? Why at this moment, when everything seemed so perfect? The room around us felt smaller, the air thicker. I could barely breathe. "Carol, what's going on?" I whispered, my voice shaky, barely above a murmur. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she took a slow step back, her eyes still fixed on me, her expression a mixture of urgency and fear. "It's not what you think," she finally said, her voice low, barely audible over the noise from the celebration. "You have to trust me on this. Don't sign that document." I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Trust her? Was she asking me to trust her over my own judgment? I had spent over 3 decades building a life with her, raising our children, making decisions together. But in that moment, I questioned everything. What was she hiding? My mind raced back to the past few months. There had been small things, little hints that something wasn't right, but I had pushed them aside. The late nights, the strange looks, the way she seemed distant whenever I asked her about our finances. Could this be connected to all of that? I wanted to ask her more, to dig deeper, but before I could, I heard Emily's voice, cheerful and full of excitement, calling out to me from the hallway. "Dad, are you coming? Everyone's waiting for the toast." It was as if the world had shifted back into place, but I didn't feel like I was part of it anymore. I stood there for a moment, still holding the pen, my mind torn between the love I had for my family and the sudden, overwhelming feeling of betrayal. Slowly, I put the pen down. "I'll be there in a second," I called out, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. But as I turned to leave the room, a part of me knew that nothing would ever be the same again. I walked out of the room, my mind still spinning from Carol's cryptic warning. The noise of the reception hit me like a wave as I stepped into the hallway, the cheerful laughter and clinking of glasses a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. I tried to push the feeling down, focusing on the celebration, on Emily's big day. But it wasn't easy. The joy I had felt earlier now seemed distant, overshadowed by the unease that clung to me. I smiled as I approached the guests, doing my best to hide the storm brewing inside. The toast was being prepared, everyone gathered around, raising their glasses in the air. Emily looked so happy, so full of life, and for a moment, I allowed myself to believe that everything was as it should be. But as I glanced at Carol from across the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She was talking to a few of the guests, but her eyes kept flicking over to me, as if she was waiting for something. I tried to ignore her gaze, but it was impossible. There was a weight in the air between us, a tension that I hadn't felt before. After the toast, we all sat down to dinner. Emily and Brian were laughing, sharing stories with their friends, while I sat quietly, picking at my food. I couldn't focus. My mind kept going back to that moment in the room, the whisper that had shattered everything I thought I knew. "Don't sign anything." The words echoed in my head. Why had she said that? What was so important about the papers? I thought I had everything figured out. I had built a life with Carol, raised our children together, and now, it felt like everything was slipping through my fingers. I looked over at her again, hoping for some kind of sign, some indication that everything was fine. But she was sitting there, her face a mask of composure, as if nothing had happened. I excused myself from the table, needing some air. I walked out into the garden, the cool evening breeze doing little to calm my nerves. I needed to clear my head, to make sense of all of this. What was Carol hiding? And why was she so adamant about me not signing those papers? I could feel the answers slipping further away, like trying to catch smoke with my bare hands. As I stood there, lost in my thoughts, I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. It was Emily. "Dad, are you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle. I turned to face her, forcing a smile. "Yeah, sweetheart. Just a little tired." She looked at me for a moment, her eyes searching mine. "Are you sure?" she pressed. I nodded, not trusting myself to say anything more. I didn't want her to see the worry in my eyes, not on her wedding day. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. Something was hidden, and I needed to find out what it was before it was too late. I spent the next few days in a fog. The wedding had come and gone, but the feeling of unease lingered. Every time I tried to focus on something else, my mind drifted back to that moment. "Don't sign anything." Carol's words haunted me, and I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was being kept from me. I tried to talk to her about it, but she deflected every question with ease. "Everything is fine, Thomas. Don't worry about it," she'd say with a smile that never quite reached her eyes. I wasn't sure when I started to distrust her, but now it was undeniable. There was a coldness between us that hadn't been there before, an invisible barrier I couldn't cross. I couldn't help but replay our conversations in my head, wondering if I had missed something. Was there a warning sign I overlooked? I remembered the way she had been acting over the last few months. The late nights, the cryptic conversations, the subtle changes in her demeanor. It all seemed so innocent at first, but now I wasn't so sure. It felt like she had been keeping something from me, something big. But what? The thoughts swirled in my head, each one more unsettling than the last. My daughter, Emily, was busy with her new life, and I didn't want to burden her with my doubts. I didn't want to ruin her happiness on her wedding day. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I couldn't just ignore what was happening. Something was wrong, and I needed to know what it was. I had always prided myself on being a good husband, a good father. I had worked hard to provide for my family, to give them everything they needed. But now, I felt like I was losing control of everything. It was as if the life I had built was slipping through my fingers, and I couldn't stop it. As the days passed, the weight of the situation grew heavier. I found myself watching Carol closely, looking for any sign that she might slip up, that she might reveal the truth. But she remained as composed as ever, her smile never faltering, her actions always calculated. It was as if she had already made up her mind about something, and I was just left in the dark. I couldn't help but wonder if I was just being paranoid, overthinking every little detail. But deep down, I knew that wasn't the case. There was something going on, something I wasn't being told. And I had to find out what it was, no matter the cost. The next few days felt like they were slipping away, each one dragging as I tried to hold on to some semblance of normalcy. But normal was a concept that no longer existed in my life. Every glance at Carol made me feel further apart from her. The warmth, the connection we once shared, was now a distant memory. It felt as if we were two strangers living in the same house, trapped by the years we had spent together. I knew I had to confront her, but the timing never felt right. Emily was still in the afterglow of her wedding, and I didn't want to burden her with my suspicions. But the weight of it all was becoming unbearable. One afternoon, as I was going through the mail, something caught my eye. A letter, addressed to Carol, with a return address that was unfamiliar. It wasn't like her to keep things from me, especially something so simple as mail. I hesitated for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. Should I open it? Should I confront her now? I knew that if I opened it, there would be no turning back. But the part of me that still loved her, that still wanted to believe in the life we had built, couldn't stop my hand from reaching for the envelope. As I tore it open, I realized that the contents were not what I expected. It wasn't a personal letter at all. It was a document, one that looked suspiciously like a legal contract. The name on the top was unfamiliar, but the word property stood out in bold letters. My hands trembled as I looked over the document, the words blurring together. It was a transfer of ownership, of something I didn't recognize. My pulse quickened as the realization hit me. This wasn't just about some business deal or investment. This was about something much more personal, something that could tear our family apart. I felt my stomach twist into knots. Carol had been keeping secrets, but this was something else entirely. I couldn't just ignore it anymore. I had to find out what this was all about. My mind raced as I considered my options. Should I ask her directly? Should I wait for her to slip up? But I knew I couldn't keep going on like this, pretending everything was fine when it clearly wasn't. I had to get answers, and I had to get them soon. The thought of confronting Carol made my heart race, but I knew there was no other choice. I couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. I couldn't keep avoiding the conversation any longer. The unease had built up to a point where it was consuming me, and I knew that if I didn't confront Carol now, I might never get the answers I was searching for. The documents I had found in the mail only made things worse, and every fiber of my being was urging me to ask her about it. But how would she react? Would she deny it? Would she make me feel like I was overreacting, as she always did when I questioned her? The uncertainty was driving me mad, and I could feel my patience wearing thin. That evening, as we sat down to dinner, I couldn't take it anymore. Carol was talking about the wedding, about how beautiful everything had been, and how happy Emily looked. Her voice was warm, but it didn't reach her eyes. It was as if she was speaking through a mask, pretending that everything was fine when I knew it wasn't. I put down my fork, my hand trembling slightly. "Carol," I said, my voice steady, but I could feel the weight of the moment pressing on me. She looked up, surprised by the tone in my voice. "What's going on?" I asked, my gaze locked with hers. "What is this?" I slid the document across the table, the bold word, property, staring back at her. Her face paled instantly, and I could see the shift in her eyes. The calm composure she had been holding on to faltered for just a second. "What is this, Carol?" I repeated, my voice a little sharper now. She didn't answer right away, and in that silence, I knew something was terribly wrong. She reached for the document, her fingers brushing over it lightly, as if trying to make sense of it herself. I watched her closely, waiting for some kind of explanation, but there was none. She just sighed and looked away. "It's not what you think, Thomas," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "What do you mean, it's not what I think?" I asked, frustration creeping into my voice. "I'm not stupid, Carol. I've been with you for over 30 years, and I can tell when something's off. Why didn't you tell me about this?" She swallowed hard, her gaze now focused on the table. "I didn't want to worry you," she said quietly. "Worry me? You've been hiding things from me, Carol. How long has this been going on? What is this really about?" I leaned forward, trying to make sense of it all. But Carol remained silent, her eyes distant, as if she was trying to decide whether or not to tell me the truth. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us both. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she spoke. "I didn't want you to know because I didn't want to lose everything," she said, her voice barely audible. "But I'm sorry, Thomas. This is something I had to do." I sat there, the words hanging in the air between us, like a heavy fog I couldn't escape. "I didn't want you to know because I didn't want to lose everything." Carol's voice was softer now, barely above a whisper, but it carried the weight of something far more serious than I had imagined. My heart beat faster, and I felt like I had been punched in the stomach. "What do you mean, lose everything?" I asked, my voice trembling with a mix of confusion and anger. Carol sighed, looking down at her hands. "There's more going on, Thomas. Things I never thought I'd have to tell you, but now I don't know how to fix it." My mind was racing. I needed answers, not more cryptic words. "Tell me what, Carol?" I demanded, my patience wearing thin. She hesitated, looking up at me with a mixture of fear and regret. "There's money involved, a deal, and it's not just about the property," she said. My pulse quickened. A deal? Money? It all felt so distant, so foreign, and yet so personal. "What kind of deal?" I pressed, my hands gripping the edge of the table. "I didn't want you to get involved," she continued, her voice growing weaker. "But I've been working with a group, trying to secure our future, a future that's been slipping away for years." The pieces were starting to fall into place, but they didn't make sense. "What do you mean, slipping away?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper now. She finally looked at me, her eyes filled with something I couldn't read, guilt, fear, or maybe both. "I made some decisions, choices that I thought were for the best, but I didn't tell you because I knew you wouldn't understand. You've always been so focused on the right thing, on the right way to do things, and I..." She stopped herself, taking a deep breath. "I didn't want you to lose everything because of me, Thomas. So I kept it from you. I thought I could handle it on my own, but now it's out of control." I sat there in stunned silence, the realization slowly creeping in. My wife, the woman I had spent my life with, had been keeping secrets from me, making choices without my knowledge. Everything I thought I knew about our life together was crumbling before my eyes. "You were going to handle this on your own?" I repeated, my voice rising with disbelief. "And what about me, Carol? What about our family? Was I just supposed to sit back and trust you while you made deals behind my back?" She flinched at my words, and for a brief moment I saw the woman I had married, the woman who had once been my partner, my equal. But that was gone now, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "But I think I've already done that." The silence between us stretched on, thick with tension. Carol sat there, her hands trembling slightly in her lap, her gaze fixed on the table as if avoiding mine. I could feel the weight of her words pressing down on me. "I didn't want to hurt you," she had said. But how could she not have known that keeping this from me would hurt more than anything? I had trusted her with everything, my life, my heart, my family, and now I was left questioning everything. I stared at her, my heart heavy with disbelief. How long had she been hiding this from me? How long had we been living in two separate realities? So, this whole time, you've been making these decisions without me? I asked, my voice steady but filled with a quiet anger that I could no longer suppress. Carol finally met my gaze, her eyes filled with regret, but there was something else there too, fear. Fear of losing me. I didn't want you to worry, she whispered. I thought I could protect you from this, protect us. Protect us? How had she thought keeping secrets could protect us? It felt like a betrayal, a deep wound that I wasn't sure could ever heal. By lying to me? I shot back, my voice rising. You've been lying to me for God knows how long, and you think that's protecting us? That's not protection, Carol. That's manipulation. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but I didn't care anymore. I needed answers. I needed to understand why she had done this, why she had kept me in the dark while she made decisions that affected our entire future. She stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, her voice cracking. But now it's too late. It's all out of control. I stood up too, taking a step toward her, my mind racing. What's out of control, Carol? What exactly are you talking about? She hesitated, her hand gripping the edge of the table as if she was gathering the strength to say something important. The money, she began slowly. The investments, the deals, it's all tied up in this property. But it's more than that. I don't know how to get out of it, Thomas. I've made a mistake, and I don't know how to fix it. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. Everything I had trusted, everything I thought I knew, had been shattered in an instant. You've made a mistake? I repeated, disbelief in my voice. You've been making decisions without me, and now you're telling me you don't know how to fix it? She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. I'm sorry, Thomas. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to protect us, but now I don't know how. I could see the desperation in her eyes, the fear that had driven her to make these decisions. But it didn't change the fact that she had kept me in the dark. And no matter how much she apologized, I wasn't sure if I could ever trust her again. The room felt smaller with each passing second. The weight of Carol's words hung heavy in the air, suffocating me. I tried to process what she had said, but nothing made sense. She had hidden so much from me, and now, here we were, standing at the edge of something we couldn't undo. I didn't want to hurt you, she kept saying, but her words were empty to me now. I had been hurt already, deeply. I had trusted her with everything, and now that trust was shattered beyond repair. I could feel the anger rising within me, a slow burn that had been building ever since she had whispered those fateful words to me in the reception hall. I never wanted you to find out like this, she continued, her voice shaking. But I didn't want to hear it. It was too late for apologies. You've been lying to me, hiding things from me, and now you want me to just forgive you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Carol took a step back, as if my words had physically struck her. I never meant to hurt you, Thomas, she said, her voice breaking. But you have to understand, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I could protect us. Protect us? I repeated, shaking my head in disbelief. You've been making decisions behind my back, Carol. You've been protecting yourself, not us. How long has this been going on? How long have you been keeping things from me? She stayed silent for a moment, her eyes searching mine, looking for some kind of understanding, but all I saw was guilt. I couldn't look at her the same way anymore. I didn't know how to tell you, she finally said, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose everything we built together. Her words stung, but they also made me pause. You didn't think about losing me when you kept this from me, I replied coldly. You didn't think about what this would do to us. There was a long pause, the silence between us deafening. I didn't know what to say anymore. My mind was racing, and my heart felt like it was breaking. I need time, Carol, I finally said, my voice steady but filled with pain. I can't just pretend everything is fine. I don't know how to move forward from this. I turned away from her, not knowing what the future held for us, but knowing that whatever it was, it would never be the same. I needed to figure out what to do, how to fix what had been broken, but I wasn't sure if it was even possible anymore. The days that followed were a blur. I didn't know how to move forward, but I knew I couldn't stay in this suffocating silence with Carol. I spent my time away from home as much as possible, throwing myself into work, trying to escape the reality that had become my life. But no matter where I went, the weight of what had happened followed me, a constant reminder that everything I had built with Carol was in jeopardy. She tried to reach out to me, tried to talk, but I couldn't bring myself to listen. Each time she spoke, it felt like another lie, another piece of the puzzle I couldn't solve. I could see the hurt in her eyes, the regret, but it didn't change the fact that she had broken something that couldn't be easily fixed. One evening, after another long day of avoidance, I came home to find Carol sitting at the kitchen table, a stack of papers in front of her. She looked up when I entered, her face pale and tired. "We need to talk," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't say anything. I didn't know what to say. My mind was still spinning from everything that had happened. She took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for one of the papers. "This is the last thing I want to do," she began. "But I can't keep running from it. I've been trying to protect you, but I've realized now that it's only making things worse." I stood there, watching her, unsure of how to react. She had spent so much time hiding things from me, and now she wanted to fix it all in one conversation. "What is it?" I finally asked, my voice low, almost numb. She slid the papers toward me, and I saw that they were legal documents, more property transfers, more deals, more things I didn't know about. "This is everything," she said, her voice breaking. "I didn't want you to be involved in any of this, but I can't lie to you anymore. The truth is, I've been making these decisions without you because I thought I was protecting us. But now I see that it was all wrong." I took the papers in my hands, looking them over. My mind raced with questions, but none of the answers made sense. "How long have you been doing this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Carol looked away, unable to meet my gaze. "A few years," she said quietly. "I thought I could fix things, make everything better. But now, I'm afraid it's too late." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. Years of decisions, years of secrets, all coming to light now, when it was almost too late to change anything. "I don't know what to say," I replied, my voice hollow. "I don't know how to fix this." She stood up slowly, her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know if we can fix it, Thomas," she whispered. "But I'm willing to try if you are." I sat there, the weight of her words sinking in, each one a reminder of everything that had been kept from me. I looked at the papers in front of me again, the legal jargon a blur in my mind. It was hard to comprehend how everything had spiraled out of control like this, how the woman I had spent decades with had kept so much hidden. I wanted to ask her more questions, to demand answers, but something inside me held back. It felt like we were both standing on the edge of something we couldn't come back from, and I wasn't sure if either of us had the strength to leap. "I don't know if we can fix this." Carol's voice broke through my thoughts, her eyes still filled with tears. "But I want to try. I need to try for us, for the family." Her words hung in the air, and I felt a pang in my chest. It wasn't that I didn't want to try, but I wasn't sure how we could. So much had been broken. Trust, love, our entire future. It all seemed like it had been shattered beyond repair. "How do you expect me to trust you again?" I finally asked, my voice quiet but firm. She didn't have an immediate answer, just a deep sigh as she sat down next to me. For the first time in what felt like forever, I noticed the weight of age on her face. The lines, the years, the regret. She wasn't the woman I had married all those years ago, and neither was I the man she had once known. We were different people now, and I wasn't sure if that was something we could come back from. "I know I've hurt you," she said, her voice raw. And I don't know if I deserve your forgiveness. But I need you to know that I'm sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I could hear the sincerity in her voice, but it was hard to tell if it was enough. My mind was still spinning, processing everything I had learned, everything I hadn't known. How do you forgive something so deep? So personal? How do you move forward when the foundation of everything you believed in has been cracked wide open? I stood up, pacing around the room, trying to clear my head. I needed to think. I couldn't make any decisions in this moment, not when everything felt like it was crumbling around me. Carol stayed seated, watching me quietly, probably wondering if I would walk away from everything we had built together. I need time, I said finally, my voice low, almost a whisper. I don't know what's going to happen, but I need time to figure it out. To think. She nodded, understanding. I can't promise anything, Carol. I don't know if I can forgive you. But I'm not ready to give up on us yet. I turned and walked out of the room, leaving her behind, not knowing what the future held but knowing I couldn't make any decisions in the heat of the moment. I spent the next few days in a haze, my mind clouded with the weight of everything that had been said. Carol had apologized, but the damage had already been done. It wasn't just the secrets or the lies. It was the feeling of being completely shut out from a life I thought I knew. How could I have missed it? How could I have been so blind? I didn't have answers, and neither did she. I needed to clear my head, to step away from everything and find some space to think. I spent hours walking, trying to make sense of it all. The quiet of the early morning, the empty streets, helped calm my mind. But no matter how far I walked, I couldn't escape the nagging feeling that I was running from something I couldn't hide from forever. Every step I took felt like I was moving further away from the life I had known. I had tried to hold onto it for so long, but now it felt like it was slipping away from me, piece by piece. At the same time, I didn't know what I wanted anymore. Could I trust Carol again? Could I forgive her? My heart told me I should, that love could heal all wounds. But my head told me that things had changed beyond repair. I wasn't sure I even knew who I was anymore. Was I still the man who had built a life with Carol? Was I still the father Emily thought she knew? Or was I just someone who had been deceived, someone who had been blind to the truth for far too long? I returned home that evening, my mind still racing. I found Carol sitting on the couch, waiting for me. Her face was etched with worry, but also with determination. She had been waiting for me to come back, to make a decision, to tell her what would happen next. But I didn't have the answers yet. Thomas, she said quietly when I walked in. I've been thinking about what you said. I don't want to keep living in this lie. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this, to rebuild what we had. I stood there, unsure of what to say. I could see how much she wanted this, how much she regretted everything. But it wasn't enough. Not yet. I don't know if we can fix it, Carol, I said, my voice low. I'm not sure I can just forget everything. She nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. I understand, she whispered. But I need you to know that I'm here, and I'm willing to try. I sat down beside her, but there was an emptiness between us that I wasn't sure could be filled. We sat there in silence, neither of us knowing what the future held. The only thing I knew for sure was that I couldn't make a decision tonight. I needed more time, more space, to figure out what I wanted, what was left for us. I stood up after a long pause and turned to her. I need to go for a walk. I'll be back in a little while. Carol didn't say anything, just nodded, and I left the house, hoping that time and distance would help me find the answers I so desperately needed.